Welcome to the Ephesiology Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the study of the early Christian movement and its implications for the church today. Today, we're with Michael, our resident ephesiologist, Andrew Johnson, associate pastor at Neartown Church in Houston, Texas, and I am Matt Till.
Well, I'm super excited to be joined by a good friend and colleague, Dr. Warwick Farah, who just recently edited a wonderful text. And we have him joining us to talk about that text because of the implications that it has on the study of movements. Warwick, welcome.
Thank you, Michael. It's a privilege to be on this podcast, and I'm really honored. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited about your work and the research that you've been doing. Why don't we just start? Give us a little bit of background about you. Let's get to know the editor behind the book.
Yes. Well, I first started reading about movements when I was a student in seminary. And so I've been interested in movements for around 20 years. I've been serving with One Collective, our agency, for about 20 years also. Grew up in California, went to seminary in Chicago, and I've been living in the Middle East for the last 16 years. So that's just briefly about myself there.
Yeah, neat. Now, to tell us, I know you're right now, you did do a doctorate in California at Fuller, and now you're continuing your academic pursuits and working on a PhD at Oxford Center for Mission Studies. Give us a little hint about that research that you're doing for your PhD.
Well, in 2016, 2017, I started thinking after I finished at Fuller, I was still hungry. So I'm not really into credentialism or, wanting another degree, but I really like to study and I really like research and being around really sharp people. And so I started thinking of another deeper research project that would really go beyond myself and involve a lot more people. And I started thinking, okay, I should maybe form a network of people to kind of help me with my research. So we started forming Modus Dei as kind of a sneaky plan of mine to get people to help me with my my literature review and my PhD
That's
research.
great.
But actually, when we started talking about it, after David Garrison published Church Planting Movements in 2004, and then Wind in the House of Islam in 2014, so many people started talking about movements. And I say we're in the midst of a movement right now. And then we know with your book coming out as well, there's just a lot of research and a lot of stuff has been done. So it's like, how do we bring people together to form a way to build on our communal intelligence, to have people, the body of Christ learning from the body of Christ on this really important topic in something that's really exploding in interest, both as a phenomenon of movements really happening in the majority world, but also in our missiological interest right now, our discourse. A lot of people are interested in this. So Modus Dei, really starting this network for me was because I'm pursuing a PhD and looking at a big picture of the factors that are facilitating church planting movements in the global South. And then getting other people to talk about the same subject. It just seems like it was a win-win.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm so glad that you've done that. I know there has been, it's not that the literature is void of conversations about movements, but certainly it's void of good, solid research on movements, particularly those contemporary movements. So you formed Modus Dei. It's a network. Tell us a little bit more about the scope of Modus Dei and what your hopes are.
Yeah, we've just been interested, like I said at the beginning, in movements for around 20 years. I first read the Church Planting Movements booklet by Garrison in 2002. And I've been interested in movements, but I'm kind of dissatisfied with the way, as a community, the evangelical missions community has been talking about movements. There's good stuff and then stuff that I think could be improved. And so at the same time, I don't want to, advocate for the cause by diminishing others, And so I wanted to form this network as a way to bring people together as an iron sharpening iron thing, not as a way to attack or debate movements, but really a constructive dialogue. So we have over 100 people involved in the network, men and women from the global north, the global south. I think over a third or higher actually have advanced degrees in missiology, including doctorates. So it's a fairly substantial network, and we're asking all sorts of questions. We're just this book that's coming out, that just came out, is really a first step in advancing the conversation. But when you look at the book, you'll see we have everything from statistics to the big picture, to historical analysis, to theology, which you could contribute a chapter to the dynamics, sociological dynamics, including music and arts and media and diaspora and a gendered perspective. So how do women contribute to this conversation? Because unfortunately, we're usually dominated by male voices. So we're trying to include the female voice to amplify the female voice in this conversation. And then we have case studies and including leadership and everything. So we're really trying to take a holistic, we're trying to go wide and deep.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you're pulling together not only qualitative research, but quantitative research, as well as historiographic and theological, missiological, all together in this one compendium. Now, this volume is the result of a conference that you chaired. Has it been a little bit more than a year? Has it been 2 years yet?
It's been 1 year, yeah.
1 year. It feels like 2 years, doesn't it?
Well, the pandemic does that to you. Yeah. We started talking about a symposium, in 2017, 2018, and that's when we started recruiting authors. But we wanted to make sure that it was really solid stuff. So before publishing a book, we wanted to have people present their papers in a symposium for peer feedback, for development, for sharpening, for clarification. And so we did that. We planned it. And then in 2020, obviously, that microscopic organism threw the world into disarray. So we pivoted to a virtual event. And actually, a lot of people did that. And so in some ways, the pandemic was our friend, because it helped with this virtual network creation and the explosion of Zoom. And it was really a much more cost-effective way, and actually a pretty deep way to facilitate a conversation for individual authors to present and then talk with their peers about what they were presenting. And then that was the beginning of that was the first step of our network. And so the first output of our network is really the book. And so we have lots of other conversations that are also happening, and we're hoping to publish another book in maybe 3 or 4 years, and to continue to have events where we can get together and discuss. So this is it's a research network around improving the missiological discourse on movements.
Yeah, great. Well, so important in our time right now, as we're seeing movements explode around the world. So I'm excited too that Ephesiology is partnering with you and on the Modus Dei project, and as much as I can contribute. I haven't actually done that much, I don't think, in Modus Dei itself, although you and I did develop a course that is a complement to the book, Foundations for a Missiology of Movements. Any thoughts about that course?
I mean, so it was just wonderful how everything came together. So at the symposium, we had over 20 authors present their presentations. We asked people to pre-record their presentations and then to be on the call live for dialogue. And we ended up using those 15-minute presentations on their chapters. We still have those, and they all gave us permission to use them. And so the course that you just mentioned is developed around the book, which with each contributor having a lecture around their chapter. So you get to see how they talk about it, and then read how they wrote about it, and then dialogue with us in the forum around the topic. And it just really flows straight through the book. And then there's assignments after that to really help people think holistically and to, like you said, lay the name of the course, that foundation for building a missiology of movements.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm hopeful, and I know you are too, that this will only contribute to the conversation as we seek to have more people involved in research of movements, as well as a conversation surrounding movements. You edited this book. It took quite a feat on your part, and as well as your associate editors. what are some of the highlights? What are some of the things that really stick out to you about this book?
Yeah, for me in 2019, when it was like, okay, I'm going to start this network and do a book and start my PhD. I looked at my schedule and I thought, okay, I don't have room for both of these in my life. And I prayed and I sought a lot of counsel, and I just felt like there was a green light to move forward from the Lord, and from my leadership was confirming that. And then the pandemic happened, my schedule cleared. So that was a huge highlight for me, just to feel like just the Lord's leading to do this. And it never would have happened if it wasn't for the pandemic. And so it's how God uses all things, So it was really, for me, like I said, I have a bit of imposter syndrome when it comes to this topic. People think because I'm the editor that I know everything. And this isn't false humility. I really put this network together as kind of a cheat code to help me learn in the process of getting my PhD. So the highlight for me has just been interacting and learning. I've able to get in touch with all the most recent research. People hear about the network and they send me emails. I get sent papers that people are writing all the time. They want feedback on, and really, I'm just kind of it's put me personally in this place where I really get to serve and bring people together. And I try to say all the time, I'm not a David Garrison. He's actually one of my PhD supervisors. I'm not a Michael Cooper. I'm not like meaning to flatter you at all, but I'm really growing in this, and hopefully just as a way to help us to learn from other people. So really the highlight for me is just getting to serve and lead, not from a position of knowledge, but of learning. I'm just curious. I'm hungry. I want to learn, and I'm hoping that other people benefit from that.
Yeah, great. Well, you are leading the way, Warwick, and I'm grateful for your leadership in this, and looking forward to seeing what the Lord's going to do with you as you continue in your doctoral research. Tell us once again the title of the book and where can someone find it?
Yes, Modus Dei. Okay, so we changed the title. Actually, Steve Addison, everyone might know him. He's written several books on movements. I sent him, he's been involved. He has a chapter in the book as well. We changed the subtitle, and for a long time it was The Movement of God and the Discipleship of Nations. And I actually got into trouble because there's some agencies that don't like to use the word discipleship because it's this passive noun with all these, with all this religiously consumeristic baggage that kind of people just use for spiritual formation, and it's not really used in a biblical way. So I still haven't got in my mind that it's not that title anymore. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a backstory why I'm stuttering a bit. It's called Modus Dei, the movement of God to disciple the nations. And so I want to credit Steve Addison with that, putting it into an active tense. And Modus Dei is really, we're mimicking that, the idea of Missio Dei and wanting to root our conversation in the nature of God. So Missio Dei, we join in God's mission to redeem the nations back to himself. Modus Dei is that same type of thing. So we're looking at the movement of God and what God is doing, how he is moving to redeem the nations back to himself, and how we can join in that. So you can get the book on missionbooks.org. It's also available on Amazon. Would prefer people to buy it on Mission Books because it's not modus Bezos. We're not helping to support billionaires to fly to outer space. But you can also get it on Amazon and a lot of other places. And yeah.
Good. Wonderful. Well, I'm excited about the book, excited to see it in print, and looking forward to what the Lord will do with it as we continue this pursuit of understanding what he's doing through movements around the world. Warwick, thanks for joining me, and thanks for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you to our listeners for doing theology and community with us here on the Ephesiology Podcast. We're glad that you are part of the growing ephesiology community. Learn more about ephesiology and get access to free missional resources for you, your church, and leadership teams at ephesiology.com. For Michael, Andrew, and myself, we'll talk again right here on the Ephesiology Podcast.